Welcome to On The Go Movie Reviews, where we talk about movies on our drive home from the cinema. So we have just been to see Midsommar. I have to say it like that, don't you, Josh?
Yes.
And we will be talking about it shortly. First of all, if you haven't seen it, here's the trailer.
I told you that I want to go to that festival in Sweden.
No, you said it would be cool to go.
Yeah, and then I got the opportunity and I decided
Look,
to do it.
I don't mind you going. I just wish you would have told me, that's all.
Dude, she needs a therapist. You've been wanting out of this stupid relationship for like a year now.
And don't forget about all of the beautiful Swedish women you'll meet in June.
Okay, guys.
That's not her again. Seriously?
Babe, what's happening? Danny.
I was so very sorry to hear about what happened.
I'm sorry.
I invited Danny to come to Sweden. You know what she's been going through.
Christian says you've got this special week planned.
It's sort of a crazy festival. Special ceremonies and dressing up.
That sounds fun.
Unbelievable.
Welcome and happy Midsummer. Skål!
What time is it?
9 p.m.
That can't be right. The sky is blue.
This is what 9 p.m. is like here.
How long have you two been together?
Just over 3.5 years.
4 years.
Really?
Yeah?
What do you think?
It's like another world.
Tomorrow's a big day.
Is it scary?
What is it?
It has special properties.
What am I going through?
We just need to acclimate.
I don't want to acclimate, I want to go.
Absolutely not.
What's happening? I don't know why you invited us.
That's why you look so guilty right now, because you know.
We only do this every 90 years. I was most excited for you to come.
Okay, Amy, what did you think of Midsommar?
I absolutely love this film. This has gone to the top of my horror list immediately. The first thing I want to say is, you guys have just watched the trailer. They say nothing in the trailer about what actually happens in this movie, and I love that fact, because there are so many movies nowadays where they absolutely spoil it in the trailer. In this trailer you see none of that, and you see none of what actually happens, and it was quite a shocking film in a sense. Like, some people in the audience were like, oh, when one woman actually screamed at one point, I think. Which was hilarious.
I also really enjoyed the film. I liked it a lot. The visuals alone are outstanding. The idea that there's almost something which we can vouch for as well, that there's almost no nighttime in Scandinavian countries in the summer in these certain areas. I think that there's a lot of Ari Aster is a very interesting writer and director, having as far as I'm aware, he's only done 2 movies, which are Hereditary and Midsommar. And I find that there's he's really got a distinctive style in filmmaking.
I mean, this film was absolutely beautiful. Like, there's so much about it. It's gorgeous. The sound effects are fantastic. Like, the violins that they use and the orchestration that they use really sets the scene, as well as the acting and the colours that they have. It just pops. It really does. And that is almost a really nice contrast to what is going on around you, which I think is obviously why they've done it.
The darkness and the colourful.
Yeah, I mean, because I don't like, and you'll find this, I don't like horror movies which are all about darkness and jump scares. I feel like it's typical and it's just there to scare people for the sake of it. I prefer horror movies which make you feel uncomfortable. And this film, I think within the first 10 minutes, I felt uncomfortable. So, spoiler alert, right near the beginning, the main girl's whole family dies, and she is crying, like ugly crying. She is good at ugly crying, that's another thing. She's proper ugly crying, and there's this violin playing over the top, and the violin's playing is almost like she's in harmony with them, and it just makes you feel really uncomfortable, and I just got tingles, and from that point on it just got better.
Yeah, as you said, like the visuals are very colourful, the sound design is wonderful. It's got a lot of Asta's. There's a lot of like very long shots, and sometimes there's like dizzying like camera movements.
Oh yeah, that made me
like there's
feel
one
sick.
in particular when the car is going along,
that
and
made
then
me
it
feel
goes
sick.
up to the sky, that twists around, comes back down.
I felt like I was on a roller coaster, and we're at the age where roller coasters make us feel ill.
Yeah, they're not fun.
So I was like, I feel sick. I can't look at this right now.
It also created like this wonderful visual where it's a road with like trees down each side, and then the sky. And when it turns upside down, you realize that the sky and the road are like mirrored.
Yeah.
And it stays upside down as they enter the place for the first time, and they hit the little banner.
That's kind of the point to it, is that it's almost like a mirror image. It's almost like the whole world is upside down in this place.
Yeah, it's like got this wonderful, like we're entering like this whole new world type vibe to it. I always find that the relationships between the characters are almost uncinematic in how believable they are.
Yeah, they are very realistic. Like, again, I'm going to take apart from the movie. The guy, the boyfriend, he's not really keen on being with her, but he's staying with her for some reason. He is going to Sweden, and she doesn't know about it, and it's like 2 weeks before, and the friends bring it up, and she's like, wait, you didn't tell me this. And he's like, well, I only just decided. And she's like, no, you had your ticket. And the conversation they had reminded me of conversations we've had, where I'm like, why didn't you tell me? And you're like, well, I didn't think it was important. And I'm like, well, it is. I needed to know this, you know? I'm not having a go, I just needed to know. And it felt so realistic, and that continued through the movie as well. It feels like you're in this world because of how realistic it is in the relationships.
Because like both characters are extremely flawed. Both the main couple. I mean, all the characters are flawed to a certain extent, but it really focuses on the main two, on Florence Pugh and
she is fantastic,
and Jack Rayner, I think his name is. So from her perspective, she's this very emotionally fraught, fragile young woman who's been through some hard stuff. But even before that, it's heavily implied that she is very emotionally dependent on her boyfriend in the relationship.
Seems quite unstable day to day, and obviously she has, you know, issues within the movie which cause that to get worse, but you can tell, like, when she's having feelings of like anxiety or panic attacks, and as I said, like, her ugly crying is, you know, really believable. It is ugly crying, but she spends a lot of the movie looking really unhappy and just never seeming well in herself.
I'm just going to say this now because it'll annoy me otherwise. Florence Pugh has a really weird body shape. I can't tell what it is exactly, but there's something about wide angle shots of her like walking around. She reminds me of like, I don't know, like a stompy child or something. I just can't like.
I think she's got quite broad shoulders in comparison to her height, so it seems like she is quite like, yeah, almost like child proportions in a way, like grumpy teenager is kind of the vibe I get sometimes, or I got in this movie. And a lot of what she wears is very like baggy, so it feels kind of like, you know, yeah, stumpy teenager.
Because I still think that she's very pretty, and I thought that maybe the bagginess was to try and hide some of the physique which she probably gained for Fighting With My Family.
Oh, maybe.
Which was another film where I was kind of looking at it like, there's something weird about you that I can't put my finger on. But I still think she's very pretty, and acting-wise, she is phenomenal.
She is absolutely fantastic. I mean, the other actors in this movie are good, but she really stood out to me. Yeah, I thought that was really, really good.
There's a fantastic sequence at pretty much the very beginning where it's a phone conversation to her boyfriend, and it's entirely just on her face as she...
The emotion that she comes across, because she's trying to not cry, and It totally, it did take me back to, again, times where I've been on the phone to you and I've literally been like, don't cry, and then you've asked what's wrong, and then you just slowly break down into tears, and she just did that so well. It's just incredible.
And I really like the fact that, like, it comes to the other side of the conversation where the boyfriend and he's with his friends and he's trying to take it in because, you know, she's worried about being too emotional, that she's kind of like scaring him off, which they've been together for 4 years, which seems a bit strange in my opinion, because they both seem relatively like not maybe unaware of each other's like true natures, or maybe that's just something which comes to light in the extreme events of the movie. But I love the fact that it cuts to him and he's like, no, she's not so bad, you know, that kind of stuff, and then he answers the phone again and it's just wailing.
Yeah, and that's when the violins kick in as well, I think, is that point.
And then it starts the really long sort of tracking shots through the... Because what I find is that quite often you know what's going on, like, in advance. And it's just this slow kind of, I guess, dread of you being proved right.
To be honest, from fairly early on in the movie, I knew exactly what was going to happen. But it was that, as say, like, slow dread as it all slowly descends into...
madness. This movie is absolutely bonkers.
Should we talk about the story?
Yeah, go on then. Yeah, go on. What have you got?
It's complex. I actually want to talk about the ending because I feel like a lot of people will interpret this in different ways. So, like, spoilers, just spoilers all the time. At the end, obviously, she is kind of like, she's become the May Queen. She's like, you know, experienced everything. She's now got a family again, and I will come back and talk about how they kind of, I love the way how they integrate her into this family as such. But the ending where she's been really depressed through the whole film. She's never looked happy. She's always, there's always like a panic attack on the horizon, or like she's got anxiety, or she's just generally miserable. And it's one of the first times in the film that she actually smiles, other than when she's like doing stuff like the dancing and things like that. And right at the end, so everyone she knew has died other than Pele. Everyone else has died, and she's just chosen to kill her boyfriend because he's betrayed her, basically, or she feels like he's betrayed her. Well, he kind of has. And she smiles, and that moment where he's burning to death, and the idea that she finally is free of all the torment and the emotion she feels, and then she is finally home. And they say that earlier on in the movie. I believe it is Pele that says it. He says, does Christian make you feel like home? And you don't get an answer from her, and I like the fact that they never actually give answers to these things. You never hear her say, like, no, you never hear her say, like, oh, I picked Christian to die or whatever. But it's implied, and you kind of know it. And then, so the idea that this is where it's gone and everything, and I don't know, just the freedom that she's found from this, and the fact that she's got her home. And I just thought that was a really, really nice ending. And I knew it was coming, but I thought that, it was a really nice way of finishing it off, because I think it'll confuse some people.
Regarding the ending, I'm glad that the bear
got
used, yeah, because they introduced the bear quite early on, and I'm like, I'm waiting for it to come back.
Never seen again until the end.
It's almost like a little cinematic joke, because the guy's like, hey, we're going to acknowledge the bear, and the guy's like, nah, don't worry about it, it's just a bear.
It's also almost a bit like Chekhov's gun.
Yes.
You know it's going to appear somewhere.
And I'm glad that the bear finally gets disemboweled and has a human sewn inside its carcass.
I love that.
It was very Nicolas Cage in The Wicker Man, where he dresses up as a bear.
Yeah, and then punches someone in the face. Anyway, it's not important.
I think because, like, a lot of the deaths and torture type stuff, I think a lot of it is actually based on historical stuff.
Okay.
Because I remember a friend telling me that there's a sequence where you don't actually see it happen, you just see the aftermath.
The chicken.
Yes.
Yeah.
Where a character gets their back cut open whilst they're still alive, all their ribs broken and splayed, and their lungs are pulled out through the back and suspended above the body, and the person's still alive and they're still breathing. That was a real torture that Vikings used to do. That exact torture scene, I think, has actually been used in the TV series Vikings, which I know is very popular. And a friend of mine watched it and was like, hey, they do this crazy fucked up thing. And I was like, oh, cool. And I obviously just saw it again in another Scandinavian set movie or property.
What I liked about that sequence is that you see him strung up and you see that there's something behind him. You're kind of like, is that his ribs? Is that his lungs? Is that like just skin? And as Christian gets closer, because he's like gone into this, it's in a chicken coop of all places, he's gone into this coop to run away, and he sees this guy strung up, and he gets really, really close, and you actually then get a shot from behind and you can see the lungs inflating and deflating, and it's that, I was like, oh my god, that's wow, okay, we're going that far in this movie.
I love the use of the Swedish language, because it's like, it's a bizarre sounding language which is so different to English, seemingly in both its like cadences and like construction. So it doesn't, like, lyrically it doesn't sound like, it almost doesn't sound like language. It's
very sing-song in the way that it's kind of pronounced, and the emphasis on certain like parts of words, it becomes a very sing-song language, whereas I feel our language is very it's very mute, you know, it's very flat.
I also feel like Latin-based languages have a, you can tell. They are, yeah, well, first of all, yeah, you can tell, but they seem penetrable. Like, when you listen to a Latin-based language, you sort of listen to it and go, okay, I can sort of understand constructions and similarities.
They're more rounded. Latin languages are more rounded in the things we say, whereas Swedish and like Norwegian and all those kind of languages, they're very hard. Like, there's lots of K's, there's lots of D's, there's, you know, P's. It's a lot more consonants than there are vowels, I think. And so it sounds very harsh, which is quite weird, because obviously it's quite sing-song at the same time. So it does sound quite otherworldly.
So it has a very harsh sound, but it comes across very happy almost.
I like the fact that they use it, so they're in English, they're like, oh, we're all happy, we're gonna start this, welcome! And then in Swedish, they say really dark things that the English people obviously can't understand. And it's just that really nice contrast. Again, there's so many contrasts in this movie, which just add to the depth. The contrast of like the, oh, happy sing-song voice, but I'm talking about death. Yay! Yeah.
Just going back to the lungs torture.
Oh, you remembered your point.
I remembered my point. I was quite glad, I was relieved almost when that scene happened, because that was the one tapestry that I couldn't figure out. Because the movie features a series of tapestries which basically tell you what's going to happen in the movie.
Right at the beginning you get a tapestry which tells you exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah, whether it be the person who's trying to put the love spell on Christian, the bear burning, and I kept seeing one which was like a person lying down with like it looked like almost like butterfly wings coming out of their backs, and I was like, what on earth is that? Why hasn't that happened yet? I can't figure it out. And then obviously it happened, and like when they do the wide shot of the guy strung up, he's got like 2 layers, so they do look like butterfly wings.
It does look like butterfly wings. I actually want to go further back and talk about how they introduce can't actually remember her name, the main character, into like their little family. Danny, that's it. Because I really, really like that scene. Like, it starts like little things, like with Pele talking to her, and then they like ask her for the help in the kitchen, and they kind of like make her feel at home. And then there's one scene where she finds out that Christian is having sex with one of the other girls, because they outsource their bloodline so that they aren't inbreeding too much. And she sees that, and she starts like breaking down, and so all the women kind of whisk her away back to like one of the other areas, like their sleeping area, and they start like breathing with her, and they start like screaming with her, and they all like feel her pain almost. And that scene, I absolutely loved that scene. I don't know what about it. I think it was as well the intercuts with that and the sex scene that's happening at the same time, because
Parallels.
Yeah, there were parallels. Like the sounds they were making were all the same. They were all, you know, it just, I loved that. I loved that scene so much. And you know at that point that she has integrated. That is literally it. Like, as soon as that scene is over, you know, right, he's dead and she's there forever, you know?
Yeah, another similarity of Hereditary is that there's naked people.
So much nudity, like he's running around with his, you know, whipping his thing about, and I was like, that must hurt, dude. Like, I don't know if that is actually, you know, for real or not, but if it is, that must hurt, because that is whipping back and forth.
I don't see why or how you would fake that.
I don't know.
It's just a dude running around naked.
Yeah, well, I don't know.
Yeah, fair play to him for doing full frontal nudity.
Yeah, totally fair play to him, because it's right there.
And equally that sex scene where like he's having sex with one of the younger ladies in the commune, and he's just surrounded by all the older ladies.
These old women.
Just stood there naked, and the one who's like gets down right in his face and starts singing, and then there's one that starts pushing his bum.
That's what I mean when I say this film makes you feel uncomfortable. That is one of those scenes.
Do you know what made me feel uncomfortable?
What?
When they tried to force feed a fish, and they're like, you have to swallow this whole for good luck.
I think the point is that is a joke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's like a messed up kind of joke.
At that point, I was just like, yeah, go for it, you can do it. I would totally be brainwashed and end up as part of that cult. Commune, whatever you want to call it.
One of the things which, one of the parts of the movie which was a biggest surprise to me is Will Poulter's character.
What one is he?
It was Mark. He is comedy gold. Everything he says is hilarious.
Yeah, and that's why he has to die first.
But every single scene, just whenever he says anything.
Even when they have scenes where it's kind of like you can't necessarily hear what they're saying in the background. You can just about, if you're listening to it, you can just about hear it. And some of the stuff he even says then, it's just, yeah, it is comedy gold. It is like, just, it's hilarious.
When they're tripping on drugs, everything he says is just hilarious.
Just lie down. It's much better. Just lie down.
I thought he was great. I was like, he actually, for some reason, it's quite noticeable when it's like Mark, the character's like, oh, I'm gonna go off and do this for a bit, and then he'll disappear for 20 minutes.
Yeah. I didn't like him as Gally in Maze Runner. I was always like, oh, I don't know if it was like the character or if it's him as an actor. His face is weird. Sorry, dude, but your face just creeps me out a little bit. I don't know what it is. Yeah, and so I was like, oh, I'm not a massive fan of you. And then, like, because he turns up and I was like, oh, okay, I didn't know you were in this. Whatever. But then he turns out to be absolutely brilliant, and it's just so funny. Just, like, so inappropriate, and it's just great.
See, I liked him as Gally in Maze Runner. I liked him in Chronicles of Narnia. I liked him in Bandersnatch, the Black Mirror film.
Yeah.
So I thought he was great, and everything he said was comedy gold.
It was.
I must admit, I don't really recognise any of the other actors, to be totally honest. I know that Jack Rayner, who plays the boyfriend, he's in Free Fire.
I recognised his face. So, yeah. Oh, is he the, what's his name? The big guy. He had a beard.
Yeah, he had a beard and he's got, like, curly hair.
Oh, my God.
And him and Sam Riley are, like, the two who, like, fight and start the big commotion.
Totally different now. Like, in this film.
Dude's trim.
Yeah, like, I thought I was like, I recognise your face, but I'm not sure why. And then yeah, okay, that makes sense. I have so much more to say about this film, but we're running out of time because I'm just parking now.
So I guess we should go for the obvious question, which is, hey Amy, what's the rewatchability?
5. I want this movie on Blu-ray immediately. I want to go back to the cinema right now and watch it again. It's great. If you like horror movies but don't like jump scares, go see this. If you like horror movies, go see this. If you don't like horror movies, go see this. It's great. Just go see it.
Trying to think of an action item. If you could be paralyzed and sewn inside the carcass of any animal, which animal would it be?
Yeah.
Oh, I just want to say quickly as well, like I love the fact that they all have like this very, very white clothes.
Yes.
And like
Oh,
no
that's another
makeup,
thing.
and then after the girl has had sex with Christian and she's been presumably impregnated,
Yeah.
her outfit now had these like glorious flushes of red, and she's
Yeah.
got this bright red lipstick on.
That's what I actually wanted to say is about the costumes, because over the course of the film, like the days go by and Pele starts like he's wearing like normal outside clothes, and then the next day he's wearing a white shirt, and then the next day he's actually wearing like the full outfit but normal-ish clothes, and then it slowly becomes more and more like the outfits that everyone else is wearing. And again, the same with Danny, like she's wearing normal clothes until a point, and then like she helps them cook and she's got like this white apron, and then the next day they're like, oh, you're gonna help out with the women, and she's like got this quite light coloured shirt on, which looks kind of similar to their clothes, and then obviously she goes and puts a dress on for the dancing, and then from that point on she's basically integrated.
I loved how intense that dancing scene was.
Oh, it was great. Oh, I've got so much to say about this film. God damn it. Yes, the dance scene is also great. Just go see it. Go see it for the dance scene, even if you don't like horror.
Okay, like, share, comment, subscribe.
Hit the bell!
Hit the little bell to stay notified.
Thanks, guys.